Hey, Bob, we're going to officially start at 12:15, so you can feel free to.
Okay, thanks, Kim. I'll go fix a sandwich.
Okay, yep, go for it.
We're starting at 12:15, and everybody will be on Zoom. Who knows?
Kim, this is Theron. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I'll keep my video off till it's time to present.
Okay.
Hi, Theron. This is Bob. Glad to see you doing there. Looks like you're doing well.
We're hanging in.
All right. I know you are. I'll be the recorder today. I do the news stories now for Rotary, so I will do my best to be faithful to your presentation.
It'll be pretty informal, so no worries.
All right. All right.
Bob, is that your home office?
It is.
It looks so professorial, I have to say. It's very fitting.
I should perhaps wear my cap, the professorial cap.
Yes.
there, huh?
There you
How's
go.
that? A bit much, huh?
Doesn't quite fit with the,
With the
what do
casual
you call those?
this casual shirt.
Yeah, there's a name for it though.
Well,
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 anyway.
it's my favorite. Just one of my favorites. It's almost threadbare. It's my island shirt.
Yes, yeah.
All right, your looks like your screen share looks great, Kim.
Okay, good.
I'll go mute.
Hey Doug, we haven't started yet. Are you concerned about sound?
it starts until 15, 12:15. I don't think there's any sound yet.
We can hear you, Larry.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh,
Thank you.
We haven't started yet, though. You're right.
my wife was worried, Kim. She's the one that
Don't
does,
worry,
she's
but
the one
thank
that does this.
we appreciate the help.
So Bonnie, I sent you an email or a text the other day about a couple of possible new members. Did you get my message?
I did get your message.
Okay, let's talk about possible times sometime, okay?
That sounds good. As of today, I start back
Ah,
full-time for the rest of the year.
See what it is.
We've delayed school start here till September 8th, which may be set back again. We don't know that for a fact till tonight. So yeah, that'd be great. Let's have conversation. And tomorrow morning, I happen to be the speaker for the Rotary AM Club to talk about membership. So
where is that?
I'm kind of getting brushed up here.
Yeah. Where is that?
Well, we're going to Zoom.
You're saying Rotary AM, you mean here in Marshalltown?
Yeah. No, in Ames AM Rotary Club.
Ah.
Yep.
Well, good. Then you'll be current.
I don't know how current. It'll just be fresher.
So Andrina has already filled out her membership application.
That's really good. It's interesting how people do pop into our Rotary lives, and we just need to be aware of taking every opportunity to include them. So it's good.
And it looks like she's joining us today, Mary, so she's on the call.
Good.
Yeah, sorry. I'm here. I'm in.
Hi, Andrina.
I was eating, so I muted myself because it's lunchtime.
And Larry, I'm excited about your part of the meeting today.
Oh, I'm really nervous here, so if I get too nervous, well, you stop me.
Okay, we'll bring on the, what is it, the umbrella handle or something?
You better hand one to Marky so she can be ready with it. She can be off to the side.
She's sitting right beside me in case I get
Okay.
something wrong.
We need a club for Larry to get him off the stage.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, McCoy.
Always my pleasure, McKibben.
Tom, are you getting any work done today? You've been doing community service all day.
No.
Yeah, open.
We unloaded 30 to 40,000 pounds of food at the Salvation Army this morning, so we got it done. So it was fun.
I might ask you to tell a little bit about that.
Sure.
Is your arm okay?
Well, that's a whole different story. It's okay. It's
Afraid of that.
Yeah.
Talk about
Right, I've
giving.
got 15, Mary.
Pardon?
I've got 12:15 on my watch.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll officially begin our Rotary meeting for August 25th of 2020. I want to start out with a thank you to Dennis Drager for setting the tone for us with this great photo that he captured north of Marshalltown on Highway 14. And his caption was, Rotary still stands. And I thought it was a great way to think about beginning our meeting today. Sorry about that. Don't know how to put that one on mute. Okay, so at any rate, we have been reporting on the attendance at our meetings regularly, and since we've missed the last two meetings, our last meeting was August 4th. We had a total of 42 people there, which was great. 25 of those folks were in person, and then 17 were came by Zoom. So we thank everybody for sticking with us. It's great to get together again after the storm that we've had. Carol Hibbs has agreed to be the person to lead us with our prayer and the pledge. So Carol.
Okay. If you would bow with me in prayer, please. Lord, you have been with us in every age and will remain our refuge, to take solace, to recollect our thoughts, to remember that all things of this world are fleeting and this too shall pass. Let us recall the calming of the storm by your hand. Let us today and tomorrow and the days ahead lean on your fortitude and resolve to care for each other and support each other through this difficult journey before us. Amidst the darkness, the confusion, and the storm of worry, may your presence be abundantly revealed so that by your light, your hand, your strength, we have steadiness, refuge, clarity of purpose, and hope. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carol. I have a guest today. Her name is Andrina Helgerson. Andrina has been living in Marshalltown for about 1.5 years, and her family was quite active in Rotary, as she has a great Rotary background also, was a youth exchange student and was involved in Interact Club. So we welcome Andrina, and we're going to be talking with her about possibly joining the club. So thanks for coming today, Andrina. Do we have any other guests? Okay. Under announcements, one of the goals that I have for our club is that our membership will become more comfortable or more aware of some of the things that are happening in Rotary clubs outside our own. And so to that end, I would like to launch a little event that we do during our meetings periodically, which I'm calling Rotary News and Information. And I'm asking folks to just spend a little time doing a commercial for us on something that they've read in the Rotarian magazine or a district newsletter or seen on the district website. And Larry McKibben has graciously agreed to kick this project off. And I understand he's a real loyal reader of the Rotarian. So Larry, thank you very much for starting us off with this. The point of, or the purpose of this is to whet your appetites so that you will find your Rotarian at your house and find an article that is interesting to you, or read the one that Larry refers to. Okay, Larry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, because I certainly do like the Rotarian. I don't know, can I show the Rotarian? I put it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, there you go.
There's the Rotarian. Everyone should be receiving it. And it's something that I always look forward to it when it comes. So good afternoon, Rotarians. As our president said, she'd asked me to do this, the Rotarian magazine, and it's something that I read and very good. My goal today is to give other members a broad picture of worldwide Rotary. In reading the Rotarian, I've seen the names of all of our general offices of Rotary International, including those who represent the USA, which are lots and lots of those internationally. We in Marshalltown are a member of the World Organization, and our organization is helping worldwide people in many ways, and unfortunately including COVID as we're having here in our own community. But it's fantastic that we have people internationally in Rotary working for that, and many, many, many other things. Your reading of the Rotarian will show you both what is going on in the United States and the world when you read in each month. We learn so much and why we are so important as Rotarians to not only the United States, but the whole world. When I was a Rotary president, I had the honor of being one of the USA representatives at the international meeting in France. What I learned at the international convention was that we, as Rotarians, do bring people together and solve problems. I'm a proud Rotarian, and all it has done for us many years. And as I see Andine there, it will be for all of us in the future. Let's keep going, and thank you all, and keep up working for Rotarians internationally, as well as in the United States and in Marshall County.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, you are probably aware that immediately following the derecho, we were invited to have volunteers help out in Tama with a program called Hot Meals USA. And this was started by a Rotarian in Nebraska by the name of Dick Cochran, and they formed a nonprofit organization. And several folks from our club were able to go over and help out in Tama. And as a connection with that, Dick is also in touch with people from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they have a program called Farm to Family that they have fresh produces that they distribute, produce boxes that they distribute to folks for free. And so he offered to make some of those available here in Marshalltown. And if you tuned in earlier, you heard me talking with Tom McCoy about that, because we had a semi-load delivered to Marshalltown to the Salvation Army this morning, and Tom represented our club there to help us get those off the truck and get them ready for distribution. So Tom, you want to tell a little bit about that?
Hi, how are you guys? We had a great time this morning. I think we unloaded, it was close to 40,000 pounds of food. There was maybe 8 or 10 people there doing it. I took a couple pictures of the produce and looked at it. It is amazing. There's peppers, onions, potatoes, celery, tomatoes, and it was delivered by us by Capital City Fruits out of Des Moines. And we got, I know the Salvation Army is planning on doing a drive-by in the next couple of days. Let me pull that up because I just got a text. I'll give you the time so you can spread the word. It'll be on Facebook. Maybe the local media can pick that up as well. And I think they're going to bring another semi-truckload in next Monday. Let me just look here. I can find it.
So she sent that message to me, and it's this Thursday, the 27th, from 10 to noon, or again from 1 to 3. And so if you are willing to help be present just to help get those boxes into people's hands, if you would let either me or Tom know, we'll make sure that we let the Salvation Army know that there'll be some Rotarians there to help out. So again, that's Thursday from 10 to 12 or 1 to 3.
And a big shout out to Lonnie Hoagland, who loaned us his equipment to get it off the truck quicker. And I talked to Mr. Gerbich, and he also offered to help us with some equipment if we ever needed. So we appreciate that too. So.
Okay, thank you very much. And also I wanted to call everybody's attention to a food drive called Arresting Hunger that the police department is conducting this Saturday morning. I think it's anytime between 9 and 3. So be on the lookout for information about that and see if we can't support them. Unless Mike, are you tuned in, and did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the food hunger, or the Arresting Hunger food drive, is this Saturday here at the police department from I think it is 9 to 3. I was thinking 11 to 3 for some reason. Let me double check that real quick. But it's a drive up opportunity, so you won't have to get out of your car, and you can just pull up. We'll help you unload your items. And thank you, Kim, or whoever put that up. But it is 11 a.m. to 3 here at the police department, 909 South 2nd Street. So just pull up, we'll help you unload, and we'll all be masked up and socially distanced, and off you'll go. So we usually hold this event in May, and we postponed it this year because of the pandemic, and I guess we just got tired of postponement. So we're going to make it happen one way or the other. Because of the storm, I think there's a huge need in our community for food. So they're looking for anything non-perishable. And if you just want to make a monetary donation, you can drop off some cash too, and we'll make sure that that goes to the emergency food box, and they'll use it for milk vouchers. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate your support of this event.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any other announcements? Okay, we're ready for happy news. And I'm going to kick off happy news this time because I'm happy to report that we had 10 volunteers who, in spite of the derecho effects here in Marshalltown, found a way to get themselves to Tama to help out with the Hot Meals USA. And to a person, I think they've all said how impressed they were with the organization and the amount of food that they were able to prepare and distribute there. And so I want to give a shout out to Tom McCoy and his wife Jade and his mother Ruth, to Val Ruff and Carol Hibbs, to Phyllis Mazur and her husband, to Jackie Wyant, who was prepared to volunteer, but they closed up before her turn came up, to Jim Lawrence, who also was prepared to help out. Again, the same kind of thing for them. So it's nice to experience having so many Rotarians ready to jump up. We've received a note of thanks from the folks from Nebraska, from District 5630, who said, please pass along my appreciation to the Marshalltown Rotarians who helped out. He said, let them know that being agile is one of the keystones of a great club. And we've certainly got to be agile in addressing all of these schedule changes. So I just wanted to pass that along, and I'm happy to be associated with all of you. Also, I'm really happy to announce that it looks like we're planning to return to Elmwood next week. So those of you who like to meet in person, we're going to be planning to do that again, and Chief Tupper will be our speaker. So we have that to look forward to. How about the rest of you? Do you have other happy news you'd like to share? Don't be shy. I'm just happy to have electricity back on too. That's okay. Todd, do you have news for us?
I do, and here we go. The weekly Iowa crop and weather report shows only half of the state's corn crop and just 56% of the state's soybeans are rated in good to excellent categories. Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig says it's caused by a combination of drought conditions, particularly in western Iowa, plus the August 10th derecho, which hit fields where strong yields had been projected. Naig says high temperatures over the next several days will create even more stress on the 2020 crop. Pasture conditions for livestock have deteriorated over the past week as well. Federal officials are giving some farmers in the driest parts of the state permission to use conservation reserve acres for hay or as grazing land for cattle and other livestock. With some schools back in session and more to follow suit in the next couple of weeks, traffic patterns may be changing both on the streets and on the sidewalks. AAA Iowa spokesperson Mark Peterson says even if classes have resumed, it doesn't necessarily mean that kids are back in the school building. Children who are home and learning online could be out and about running errands or taking a break and playing outside, so drivers always need to be on guard even during these school hours. If you're a fan of the Farmer's Almanac and you love winter, you may like the new edition being released that predicts a very cold, snowy Iowa winter. It is forecast to be exceptionally cold winter with above normal snowfall. Almanac editor Peter Geiger says it is forecasting a relatively typical December for Iowa, with a moderate snow event January 10th through the 13th, even with more snow in February. Now, meteorologists at the National Weather Service say it's impossible to accurately predict the weather more than a few weeks out, but the Farmer's Almanac routinely works 2 years ahead. Geiger says their formula was developed by the first editor in 1818. Finally, troopers in Iowa and Nebraska reported pulling over drivers at extreme speeds in the last week, and they're telling everybody to slow down. The Iowa State Patrol said a trooper stopped 2 different drivers for egregious speeds. The trooper clocked 2 drivers in northern Iowa at 133 and 135 miles per hour. The patrol said there were 7 fatalities on Iowa's roads over the weekend, 37 so far in August, and a total of 196 in 2020. Finally, a couple of weeks ago, Mary Giese dropped off a present for me, and this is the Pretty Good Joke Book, which says there are over 2,200 jokes in this book. So I have this now, and Mary actually autographed it for me as well. and her writing was, "Todd, thanks for being a pretty good joke teller at Rotary." So Mary, thank you for the book and the compliment, I guess. So as it were, here's today's joke. An elderly woman walked into the local county church. The friendly usher greeted her at the door and helped her up the flight of steps. "Where would you like to sit?" he asked. "The front row, please," she said. "You really don't want to do that," the usher said. "The pastor is really boring." "Do you happen to know who I am?" the woman inquired. "No," he said. "I'm the pastor's mother." "Do you know who I am?" he asked. "No," she said. "Good," said the usher.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, Doug Beals, are you connected? Are you ready to introduce our program for today?
I am, President Mary. It's my pleasure to introduce Theron Schutte. Theron is entering his 5th year as superintendent and resident of the Marshalltown Community School District after having been raised and educated here in Marshalltown, graduating from MHS in 1981. He completed his undergraduate degree at Central College in Pella and his graduate degrees from Western Illinois University and Iowa State University. Theron is past president for the School Administrators of Iowa and currently serves on the National Superintendent's Executive and Governing Boards. This marks Theron's 36th year as an Iowa school educator, having served previously in Clinton, Boone, Bettendorf, and now Marshalltown. Theron is a Paul Harris Fellow and has been a Rotary member since 1995. Theron is married to Connie, who works at the Iowa River Hospice. He has 2 daughters, one living in Bettendorf along with her husband and 3 grandsons, and the other living in Memphis, Tennessee with her husband. It's my pleasure to introduce Theron Schutte as our speaker today.
Well, thanks, Doug. That's probably the nicest introduction you've ever given to me. So welcome to the new normal as the Marshalltown Community School District heads into a Bobcat strong educational experience. All of our students, as we head into the new school year, are going to be issued a cloth face mask, of which we have all kinds of different colors depending on the grade level. They're all going to be issued a face shield, high quality face shield, I might add, which will probably be the choice in terms of comfort. And all of our kids are also going to be issued a desk shield that they will have. It's a mobile desk shield that they'll have at their desks, and for what mobility they need to have if they're moving class to class, I'll be able to take that with them as well. Those are just kind of the basic mitigation strategies amongst many that we're going to be using. You may have heard recently, and I'm going to keep this pretty informal, that we did push back the beginning of our school year to September 8th, the day after Labor Day. That was due exclusively to the impact of the derecho storm that we had, and primarily the fact that we were without power and without internet, which also meant phone for us since our phones are all digital. And as of today, we're still without internet and phone at Woodbury Elementary School and at our bus barn, which is a big deal relative to the start of school. So we're very hopeful that those two facilities will get up and running shortly, because we still have parents needing to register that didn't register on time. We have new families coming in to register all the time. And we have our teachers coming in starting, well, actually, we've got new teachers starting with their mentoring and induction this week, carrying into early next week. And then all staff, all teachers and employees will be returning next week in anticipation of the students now coming on September 8th. Similar to what you heard, I believe, from the city, we were very, very fortunate that none of our school facilities took individually the type of damage that the tornado caused in 2018. And if there was anything that the tornado did that was good for us, I guess it was prepare us for this event, because we as a school district, as well as a community, I think were able to very quickly pivot into recovery mode and to try to get things back to some sense of normal as quickly as possible. Whether it be good or bad, it probably took our mind off COVID a little bit for a few days, which was kind of nice, although obviously we still needed to be safe about how we went about things. I will say, however, even though none of our buildings took the same type of damage that Woodbury or Franklin or even Rogers did during the tornado, all of our facilities took damage. And so the totality of the damage in terms of numbers and cents are going to be significantly higher than what we had with the tornado. Probably the most visible things would have been the tree damage at Miller, which was on the outskirts of the tornado, but took the full brunt of this storm as far as tree damage. And if you take a look at Miller, you'll see a nearly 100-year-old flagpole that's bent like a shepherd's hook, similar to what Woodbury experienced with the tornado. At the high school, in addition to a lot of trees coming down, we had a light pole at the baseball stadium, a steel light pole that was just sheared in half. It's just hanging upside down, which is pretty apparent, and a significant loss of trees there. But again, fortunately, nothing that would have prevented us from being able to start in a timely fashion, with the exception of the lack of power and internet, which we're still struggling with to some degree. Getting back to the return to learn, personally, I just feel like it's extremely important for our kids to get back in school, while recognizing that some of our kids and our families aren't ready for that. But we've taken the approach, since we initially announced our plan, to accommodate everybody that's willing and able to get back on site to the Marshtown Community School District that we can, while also providing an option for online learning for those that aren't quite ready or able to. And so about 20%, or 1 out of 5 students, are choosing to go the online route. And we've dedicated teachers specifically to facilitating that, aside from the teachers that are facilitating the on-site learning. With that in mind, all of our people that are doing on-site learning are going to have to be prepared at a moment's notice to potentially pivot to a more virtual or online route in the event that we have, or when we have, because it's probably not a matter of if, but when we have instances of either students or staff members testing positive, or being directly exposed to people that are positive, because we will need to work very closely, as we have been throughout this pandemic, with Marshall County Public Health to do contact tracing, to communicate directly with students' families who may be negatively impacted by such occurrences, and be able to accommodate for what we can for on-site learners, people that are still able to come on site, as well as those that'll have to go into quarantine for up to 14 days. Some additional things that we've done in preparation. I know Bonnie and Mary and other people that are educators are very familiar with mandatory training that you have to do every year. Typically, we do bloodborne pathogens annually. Mandatory reporter has to be done for being able to identify child abuse, bullying and harassment training, copyright training. We have restraint and seclusion training for how you have to be careful about when you have to involve yourself physically in helping students be protected from other students or others. Now we have a mandatory youth suicide training that we need to do. In addition to that, we required all of our staff to do 8 additional trainings that were all COVID related. All of these trainings were done online, and we actually have paid them to take these on their own during the month of August prior to reporting for actual pre-service training. So they took courses on common illness prevention, coronavirus awareness, video on how to create your own face masks, how to clean and disinfect your workplace, managing stress and anxiety, preparing your household, because it's important that people are not just safe at work, but they're safe at home in order not to put people at risk. Transitioning to a remote workforce, which we obviously had to do last spring under emergency circumstances, and we're hopeful that if and when we need to do that this fall, that we'll be better prepared to do that in a better way, in a more meaningful and engaging way, although we certainly haven't perfected that. And just an overall training on the pandemic flu. One of the adjustments that we made for our August 3rd board meeting recommendation on how we plan to embark on returning to school was, you may recall that when I talked previously, the state required us to submit a plan by July 1st that ensured that if we do go into remote learning mode, which will be required, that we're prepared to do that as well as we can. And then they also said you have to prepare for 1 to 2 other possibilities. One would be to be able to come back on site, and how you're going to put things in place in order to do that safely. And the third option was a hybrid option. And what that means, in essence, it means different things to different people, but in essence, it means you're part-time on site and you're part-time online. So our original plan was either to be on site or to be fully virtual for a semester. But at August 3rd's meeting, we chose for the high school 7 through 12 and for the middle school, for the high school and the middle school 7-12, we chose to go hybrid, which meant students would be divided into 2 groups, and they would be on site for 2 days and they'd be off site for 2 days. They'd be back on site for 2 days. And the reason that we did that was because based on the data that we had been given, based on positivity rates, and particularly the data that we were seeing nationally through Johns Hopkins that said specifically for Marshall County, based on our positivity rate as they figure it, which is different from how our state figures it. They said for a building of 500 students, you could anticipate at least 7 people to be in that building who are infected with the virus. And so what we wanted to do at both the high school and middle school, which are 2 of our largest buildings, we wanted to reduce the probability or potential for people coming in on any given day with the virus by reducing the numbers in half. And then in addition to that, we've moved to what's called the block schedule instead of traditional scheduling. Traditional scheduling is you have 7 different classes, they're all 50 minutes long, and you switch class to class throughout the day. With the block schedule, you have classes every other day. They're twice as long as they normally would be, so you get like 2 days worth in one, and that reduces the number of changes at the high school and the middle school, course changes and cross-pollination of kids, if you may, reduce that in half. So those were mitigation strategies that we decided to put into place. I don't think it's any secret that Marshall County has been, since the beginning of this, one of the hotter spots. We're not maybe as hot statewide as we were in terms of top 5, but we're still around the top 10. And that probably will continue throughout this pandemic, I imagine, just based on the nature of our community, the nature of the work, the nature of our circumstances. And so again, while placing an emphasis on trying to get as many people back to work and back to school as we can, we want to do it in a reasonable way that balances the health and safety of both our students and our employees with the needs of our parents and our business community and such. So our elementary students will be coming daily to school, and we've worked really hard, based on the fact that 1/5 of our kids are going online, which allows us to reduce class sizes a little bit. And we've been working on restructuring classrooms to make sure that we can ensure that we have appropriate social distancing. And for the most part, we're operating under the pretense of a minimum. So, we always hear about 6-foot social distancing, and 6 foot is what's absolutely necessary if you're not wearing protective gear. But between face masks, face shields, desk shields, and based on research done by the American Pediatric Society, we feel that by requiring, which we are doing, either a mask or a shield to be worn by everybody that's in the facility, that we can operate with a minimum 3-foot social distancing while still aspiring to or trying to get closer to that 6-foot distance, even with those mitigation strategies in place. We obviously are pushing hard on the other health strategies, whether it be hand washing. We've done a significant infusion in classrooms as well as hallways and common spaces of hand sanitizing stations. We worked with a local business to implement signage throughout our buildings. So we've got, well, as you saw in my t-shirt, we've got messages about the mask needing or being required if you come in. We've got signage that deals with being self-aware and self-checking your health. And as I mentioned before, we're in the process of implementing walk-through temp scanning stations similar to what Emerson has, multiple stations in all of our buildings. Plus, we've purchased a plethora of handheld, touchless thermometers with the idea that all adults will be scanned daily, and hopefully all students as well. Until we get into it and figure out the complete logistics, that's going to be a challenge. But I think that between the scanning stations as well as the hand scanning, we should be able to scan most of the students, hopefully daily, if not every other day at a minimum. We've got signage in the restrooms, reminding people the importance of washing their hands. We've got signage going on the floors like what you see in stores and such that, show people the direction. Where we can, we've gone to one-way hallways. Where we can't, we've clearly marked staying on your side of the hallway, walking one direction so you're not crossing immediate paths with people. We've got reminders all over about social distancing, directions, stairway directions. I mean, we've gone to the nth degree to help provide visual guidance, as well as the fact that our employees are going to have to really be conscientious about monitoring and reminding the young people about appropriate etiquette. as it relates to health and safety, and really emphasizing that, we're deeply concerned about our own safety, but, as far as this mitigation goes, it's really about protecting and respecting others. We got thrown a little bit of a curveball after that July 1st planning, when we were under the belief that it was entirely up to us as the local board and superintendents to make determinations of what was best for our community. When the governor announced her parameters as it related to what thresholds you had to meet to go to remote learning, by the state. I looked today, our Marshall County positivity rate since that came out has been anywhere between 10 and 12%, which according to the state guidance is considered minimal to moderate. You have to be above 15% to then be in a position to ask for a waiver of the state to be considered. But in order to be in a position of just making a decision on your own to go totally remote, you have to be above 20%, which is a really, both the 15 and 20 are really high thresholds. But just to put it in perspective, Marshall County as of yesterday was at 17 just for that day. So my belief is that most of the time we've truly been more in a 15 to 20% range, even though the state data is showing us in that 10 to 15% range, but it all comes down to how they do their data. And, if you look at the national data, I believe for Marshall County, when you drill down, it usually shows much higher than what our state data demonstrates. So we're always going to try to err on the side of caution. You've seen a few districts, Des Moines and Iowa City, that have decided to, challenge the interpretation of the state law, guidance, governor, et cetera, because they want to go total remote learning instead of on-site learning. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. In the state of Florida, a judge ruled in favor of the schools that wanted to go online versus the state dictates in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, from a personal perspective, I really feel confident that we can do a great job of providing a safe teaching and learning environment and getting as many kids back as we can, which is critically important. As I talked to you about earlier this year, one of the challenges we have with virtual learning is getting everybody access to virtual learning. And so we worked really hard, really since last April, to identify our children and their families who don't have access to high-speed internet. We worked with local provider MediaCom to identify which families would be eligible for us to have MediaCom connect and for the district to pay for the coming year. We've also purchased now 450 Verizon hotspots to issue to families that aren't eligible for the MediaCom plan, which are going to come in really handy now, because we probably were a third of the way of connecting families when the derecho hit. And obviously MediaCom is fully invested in getting their existing customers back up and running, which they should be, which has put the brakes on getting new customers hooked up. So we wound up having to expand the number of hotspots that we had in order to best ensure that we were in a place of readiness come September 8th to have both virtual online learning for the first time available through the Marshtown Community School District, as well as to have the on-site learning with the knowledge that we may have to pivot at any one point. So that being said, I'd be happy to open it up to any questions that people have about anything that I didn't cover or things that you're curious about.
I'd like to know how you're handling sports. Will you have a game Friday night? Is that right? Football game?
Yeah, so we just pushed out actually, I think to the media and others, what our guidelines are for the fall sports. You know, Iowa was kind of a pace setter or pioneer, so to speak, doing high school sports this summer with baseball and softball. And given the fact that I think it was 95% of the schools did not have a temporary closure or an end of season, and 97% were able to finish the season even if they had a closure. The state determined that to be successful. So we're going into the fall sports season in a similar mode where there's significant limitation on who can be at the event to spectate. For the most part, parents are allowed at all the events, and a certain number of tickets are allotted for visitors to accommodate that. The only exception to that really is with swimming. The swimming venues are much smaller in nature, and so the conference, the Central Iowa Metropolitan Conference, decided that no parents of visiting teams would be able to go to the event. So we're trying to work hard to figure out how with swimming, similar to volleyball and football, we can live stream those events so that parents, whether they be our own or other relatives or just community members who come out to support their local high school teams, can view that. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but there is a limitation on how many people beyond the parents of not just football players, but cheerleaders and band members and drill team and such, because we're trying to accommodate safely all of those activities taking place in some way, shape, or form can get in. But for the most part, it's going to be a challenge just for a citizen or a community member to get into many of those events. Once they're in the events, we're pushing really hard on, well, we're requiring masks be worn, number one, and we didn't require, we just highly recommended during the baseball season, but it'll be required that masks are worn and that'll be enforced. And then, really encouraging social distancing. We've put X's on the bleachers to help guide people to know what the appropriate social distance is. Of course, family members can sit all together. We're actually telling our students, there's not a student section as there traditionally would be, but we're telling our students they can sit with one other student. So.
Theron, a question with regard to your hybrid schedule for your secondary students.
Yes.
The days that they're not in the building, are there certain requirements for them online to complete? Or
Yeah.
are all the requirements coming within the brick and mortar days?
No, the students are required to learn on a daily basis, whether it be on-site or whether it be virtual. And so we have dedicated platforms. We use Canvas at the secondary level, which the state just recently adopted, but we've had that for a couple years. And then we use Google Classroom at the elementary, intermediate, and possibly even Miller. So the work that is assigned for the days that kids are off, as well as when they're on, will be posted on there. And then, of course, the days that the kids are in school, in the brick and mortar, they'll be given guidance as to what's going to be expected to them outside of school as well. We're going to do that for at least the first 9 weeks and, evaluate the situation to determine whether we can then bring everybody back or whether we need to stay in that mode. Now, another question is, well, why not Lenahan? Because Lenahan's the same size as Miller. Lenahan is structured a lot differently, where they're in neighborhoods and they're with 2 to 3 teachers versus 5 to 7 teachers throughout the day. So what they're doing at Lenahan is that where there would normally be a course change between, classes changing from teacher to teacher, the teachers are going to change classrooms instead of the students. So the students always stay together in their group of 30 students, and we don't have that cross-pollination with other kids. And the reason that we really need to cut down on that is, knowing and understanding at some point we're going to be dealing with students who have been exposed or who test positive, or even adults that are in our buildings, we want to be able to quickly identify and isolate the problem, you know, as the spread goes. And if we keep the kids in classes and no bigger than, let's say, 22 kids or whatever, we can very quickly get on top of and manage that, so that that situation doesn't have the potential to spread, hopefully, through the rest of the building. The kids, for the most part, are going to be eating lunch in their classrooms. When they do things like recess or physical education and those types of things, you know, we're going to try to do our best to implement strategies where they're not sharing equipment. They're doing as good a job as we can do to keep their social distance while still, you know, being able to expend some energy and that sort of thing. But, you know, some of it's going to be a learning by doing. We've researched and studied to the nth degree, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to figure out once we get off the ground in another couple of weeks as well, that we can change, adapt, and do better. And, you know, hopefully, you know, everybody can have patience and understanding that there's a lot of moving parts to this deal, to say the least.
Well, in light of the time, I would like to say a special thank you for your professional and thoughtful way of approaching these many challenges, and makes me really proud to be from Marshalltown and connected with the school district. So thanks, and we wish you a lot of success with no challenges. So I think at this time we'll close with the four-way test, and a reminder that next week we'll be convening again at Elmwood Country Club as well as over Zoom. So of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Yeah. Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I now declare our meeting closed. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mary.
Mm-hmm.